So we're going to solve quadratic equations by completing the square. So once you have the process down for completing the square, we have to solve equations using that method. So if you're being told to complete the square, it's probably not complete, but we can make sure. The first thing you want to do is you want to isolate your square term and your linear term. So we want to take whatever constant is there and move it to the other side so we can just focus. So we're going to subtract 25 to the other side of the equal sign. And now what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to figure out what number do I have to add in this space in order to make this left side a perfect square so I can have y plus a number squared. That's the whole purpose of completing the square. Because we have an equal sign, if I add something to the left side, I need to add it to the right side as well. So whatever number I find, I will have to add to both sides to make sure that this stays equal. So, based on the other videos that I've posted, we're taking our b value. In this case, it's 8. We're dividing it by 2. And we're squaring it. 4 squared is 16. That means this has to be our constant value in order to get a perfect square. So I'm adding 16 to the left. I'm going to add 16 to the right. The left side, again, the purpose of this is to write it as a perfect square. This term that's being squared is going to be my factor term. So I know this is going to end up as y plus 4 squared. On the right side, I do have to simplify this. So negative 25 plus 6 is negative 9. And now we're solving using the square root property. I have my variable inside parentheses, and it's being squared, so I could do square roots. So I'm going to do the square root on the left. I'm going to do a square root on the right. So again, you are always writing plus and minus every time you do the square root property. So it's plus minus radical negative 9. And on the left, the square and the radical cancel. Get y plus 4. We're subtracting 4, and now we have y isolated. Y equals negative 4 plus or minus radical negative 9. This is not the answer. You always have to look here and ask yourself, can I simplify this? In this case, you can. The square root of 9 is 3, and because it's a negative, it's imaginary. So we put an I. So that is your final answer, 4 plus or minus 3i. So we'll do a second example. This way you have practice. If you want to pause it and try it on your own, go for it. But I will warn you, in this case, our middle term is odd. So like I said in the previous video, if the middle term is odd, we're going to have fractions up in here. So we're going to keep the x squared plus x, and we're going to add 4 to the right side. Our goal is to figure out what do I need to add on the left. To keep them equal, I also have to add it to the right. And the purpose of this is to get x plus something squared. And the reason we're doing that is so that we can do the square root of whatever this is, and it's going to equal plus minus whatever the right side is, and then we're going to have x plus our number is going to equal plus or minus that radical. And all we're doing now is filling in gaps. So back to the top. To find our constant, we're taking b, in this case, which is 1. That's the number in front of the x. Dividing it by 2 and squaring it. Keep them as fractions. So 1/2 squared is 1/4. That's our constant. So I'm adding 1/4 to the left side. I'm adding 1/4 to the right side. The right side I do need to simplify. So I have to do 4 plus 1/4. We do not use mixed numbers. So if you do want to write 4 and 1/4, you have to convert that to a mixed number. We get 17/4. That's going to be on the right side of our equation. On the left side, our factored term is inside those parentheses. It's the term we're squaring. So we're going to end up with x plus 1/2 squared equals 17/4. So the numbers don't change. X plus 1/2 squared. We're doing square roots to both sides. So now we have the square root on the left side canceling with the radical, or the square root and the square being opposites. And on the right side we have our plus minus because we're doing square roots. X plus 1/2 equals plus minus radical 17/4. Subtract 1/2 from both sides, and the way we would write our answer, x equals negative 1/2 plus minus radical 17, and we're going to write that over 2. The square root of 4 is 2. So I can simplify that and write my answer like this. If you want to get super fancy, because why not? These are technically like terms because they both have the same denominator. So I can write one big fraction. Negative 1 plus minus radical 17 over 2. And hint, hint, wink, wink, this is how most of your answers are going to look as you start the process doing something called a quadratic formula. So hopefully all this stuff connects and this is starting to make sense.